If you've been thinking looping coasters these days are getting boring, I encourage you to give Fahrenheit at Hersheypark a try. I'll tell you why coming up. But first, welcome to 808 Coaster Life. If you're new to this channel and you love roller coasters and other theme park related stuff, please consider subscribing. This ride opened in 2008 as Intamin's first vertical lift coaster, which mimics something like a Gerstlauer Eurofighter or Infinity Coaster. Even though a second one of these finally opened up in China, this was the lone wolf for a while, but continues to be one of the most popular attractions at Hersheypark. One may think Intamin's just knocking off Gerstlauer or B&M, but spoiler alert, I actually rank this over every B&M Looper and Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster I've ridden, which is a total of 6, but still. I'll examine the ride experience and give you some of my main takeaways. So coming up to this ride, you'll notice how nice this ride looks. Even though most of the ride is behind other things, its recent repaint makes it stand out more, although I can do without the Chevy advertising. The queue line isn't very scenic or immersive, but you got foliage and shade, which is good because this line can get long unless you get fast track. The station is quite plain, but that's where you'll notice the trains. These trains are pretty short and have 2 across seating with Intamin's soft over-the-shoulder restraints. I found these restraints to be pretty comfortable, but kind of limit the feeling of airtime. This ride doesn't have many airtime moments, so I guess that's not really a problem. Some who rode this ride towards the front found it forceless. Therefore, I got my one and only ride in the back row, which definitely makes for a pretty intense ride. So if you're into that, I'd recommend the back row. This ride has a height of 121 feet with a top speed of 58 miles per hour. The first drop is 97 degrees, as the slogan suggests, and the ride goes through 2,700 feet of track in 1 minute 25 seconds. You'll also be upside down a total of 6 times in a ride that costed $12.1 million to build. After pulling out of the station, the ride goes up a vertical lift hill. These are always fun since you get a floating sensation. Next up is the ride's signature beyond vertical drop, which provides powerful airtime if you're in the back row, but doesn't last very long. The ride then goes through a Norwegian loop, which basically is a dive loop quickly followed by an Immelman. You get a feeling of weightlessness at the top of the dive loop part. The valley between the inversions was very forceful, and the Immelman part ended up being pretty whippy. It's got a nice variety of forces. Your next 2 inversions are in the form of a cobra roll, and this is the smoothest cobra roll I've experienced in terms of track profiling. However, probably due to its age, it was kind of rattly right before the cobra roll. Luckily, that was the only section where I noticed a distinct rattle. Your final 2 inversions are 2 very whippy corkscrews. I was surprised at how fun these were, but the ride's not completely done yet. You take an overbanked turn followed by a surprisingly powerful ejector airtime hill. This caught me off guard in a similar way to hang time, and I like that there's also some airtime and not just inversions. You turn around a pretty intense turn before hitting the final brakes, ending your ride on Fahrenheit. Apparently, this ride can be different depending on what row you sit in. From my back row experience, I found the ride more intense than expected. It had great moments of positive G's, but I like that it's not all positive G's. The corkscrews and Norwegian loop had decent whip to it, and the drop and final hill provided great moments of ejector airtime. As I mentioned earlier, the ride quality was good, with the exception being the entrance into the cobra roll, which was noticeably rattly. But what I like most about this ride is its duration. Some looping coasters stretch out the ride a little too long, while others, especially Eurofighters, cut it a little too short. In my opinion, Fahrenheit has an almost perfect ride length. It's not too short and not too long. Overall, the pros are the ride duration, intensity, unique elements, and drop. The cons are the ride capacity, inconsistent ride quality, and scenery. Overall, this ride gets a very good 4.7 out of 5 stars. I believe this is one of the best traditional sit-down looping coasters out there. Yes, I know that's very specific. I like how it's forceful, but not too intense. It also might be most comparable Gerstlauer Infinity coasters. I do rank this a little over hang time. Really, the only things I could see improved are the throughput and trains. This ride does get a decent weight consistently, and the trains aren't the best or worst. So if you have been to Hersheypark, let me know down in the comments how Fahrenheit compares to the other coasters in the park. Everyone's rankings at Hersheypark are a little different. And if you want to see a review of another great coaster at Hersheypark, check out the card up there. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to let me know by leaving a like on this video and maybe even subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.